The rain had been falling over Windsor Castle since late afternoon, coating the ancient stone walls in a sheen that captured every flicker of lantern light along the courtyard. By nightfall, the weather had turned into a relentless downpour, drumming against the windows with the steadiness of a heartbeat. Inside, the castle corridors felt warmer than usual, lit by soft golden sconces that cast long shadows across the floor. The usually tranquil atmosphere carried a subtle heaviness, a tension that had not yet revealed its shape, but hovered in the air like a warning waiting for a voice. Sergeant Rowan Hale walked his patrol route with the precision of a man who had memorized every doorway, tapestry, and echo of the East residential wing. His family had served the royal household for over a century, though Rowan was the first to wear the uniform of the Royal Guard. Tonight, he felt the weight of that legacy more than ever. His boots clicked against the stone floor at a steady pace, each sound softened by the corridor's thick carpet runners. The faint scent of polish and old cedar hung in the air, a familiar comfort that usually anchored him during long night shifts. But not tonight. Something about the silence unsettled him. He paused near the window that overlooked the inner courtyard, watching the rain streak down the glass. A guard could always sense when a night would be different. It was rarely one thing, never just a sound or a shadow, but a combination of subtle cues that spoke to instincts sharpened over years of service. Tonight, those instincts whispered caution. Rowan turned away from the window and continued toward the entrance to the Royal Children's Wing. He held deep respect for the young royals, but Princess Charlotte held a special place in his mind. She had a sharpness to her eyes, a spark of confidence that reminded Rowan of his younger sister, Isla. Charlotte loved asking guards questions, everything from how long they trained to whether their boots were heavy, and Rowan always answered her with unwavering seriousness, which made her grin proudly, as if she'd been granted classified information. Protecting her felt almost personal. As he reached the corner leading to the children's wing, he slowed his pace. The wing was unusually quiet. At this hour, a night governess typically walked the hallway, checking rooms or adjusting lights. A security aide often reviewed logs from a desk positioned near the entrance. But tonight the desk was empty. Not even a faint rustle of movement echoed from the adjoining passage. Rowan's hand brushed the radio clip to his uniform out of habit, though he did not raise it to speak. Reporting too early could cause unnecessary alarm. He continued forward carefully. A single lamp glowed at the far end of the corridor where the door to Princess Charlotte's suite stood closed. The soft light pooled onto the floor like a halo. Rowan took in every detail: the quiet hum of the air vent, the faint creak of the old ceiling, the distant sound of a door opening somewhere on the lower level. Nothing seemed out of place, yet his pulse quickened. He approached Charlotte's door with focused attention, listening for the rhythm of breathing or the small movements of a child asleep inside. But the room was silent. Just as he turned to continue down the hall, he heard it. A whisper, faint, fragile, almost carried by the breath of the ventilation system. It slid through the corridor like an unseen presence. Rowan froze. At first he thought it was the wind forcing itself through an old latch, but the sound came again, this time clearer, more deliberate. A voice, low, close, and unmistakably human. It drifted from somewhere near the central passage that connected the children's wing to the old library. The words were indistinguishable, blurred into a soft hiss, but the tone carried something undeniably chilling, intent. Rowan turned his head slowly, listening. A guard learned early in his training that whispered voices rarely came without purpose. The hair along his arms rose. He stepped toward the sound, quietly but decisively. Then it came again, closer, sharper, a little louder, as though the speaker had moved a step nearer. "It has to be tonight." The whisper slid like smoke along the corridor, making Rowan's breath catch in his throat. He scanned the area, eyes narrowing as he searched for movement, but the hall remained empty. No shifting shadows, no footsteps, no open door. Only the whisper echoing through the air as if clinging to the stone around him. He took another step toward the central passage. Then the voice added something else, soft, almost mournful, yet laced with something cold enough to chill the marrow. "She won't see it coming." Rowan's heart slammed against his ribs. The words echoed in his head, hollow and unsettling. He reached for his radio without hesitation now, but stopped just short of pressing the call button. Reporting a threat required precision. He needed to be certain the voice hadn't come from a radio frequency or a stray signal bouncing through the castle's aging infrastructure. He stepped into the central passage. The archway framed nothing but silence. The rain outside suddenly seemed louder, pounding the windows as if urging him to act faster. The whisper returned directly behind him this time. "Charlotte." Rowan spun, hand on the security baton strapped to his belt, but the corridor was empty. Completely empty. No footsteps running away. No doors opening or closing. Not even the faint shift of air that would betray someone slipping out of sight. But the voice had been so close he could almost feel its breath on the back of his neck. This time, Rowan raised the radio without hesitation. "Control, this is Sergeant Hale in the East Wing," he said, keeping his voice low. "I need immediate surveillance access to Corridor E4. Possible threat indicators near Princess Charlotte's quarters." Static crackled faintly before a voice responded. "Sergeant Hale, confirm type of threat." Rowan steadied his breath. Whispered verbal indication. Unknown source. Tone suggests intent toward the princess. The silence from the other end lasted 2 seconds too long. Then, acknowledged. Proceed with caution. Stand by for reinforcements. Rowan ended the transmission. The rain continued to batter the windows. The corridor seemed to shrink around him. Every instinct inside him sharpened like a blade. Because someone had whispered Charlotte's name with intent, and in a matter of hours, Prince William would learn what Rowan had heard. He already knew this night was far from over, but he did not yet know that William would respond with an emergency assembly that would shake the entire palace awake before sunrise. Reinforcements arrived faster than Rowan expected. Within minutes of his transmission, 2 additional guards rounded the corner of the East Wing, their footsteps sharp but controlled. Officer Mitchell Reeves and Corporal Diana Ward moved with the silent urgency of those who understood the gravity of being summoned to the children's corridor after midnight. Neither of them spoke as they approached, but the tension etched into their expressions said everything. Rowan lifted a hand, signaling for caution, and pointed toward the central passage where he had first heard the whispers. Reeves scanned the hallway, jaw clenched. "Control said your report suggested direct intent," he murmured. Rowan nodded. "It wasn't a sound carried through vents or from another level. It was here." Someone said her name. Diana's brows tightened. "And no visual?" "None," Rowan replied. "Not a shadow. Not a door opening. The corridor was empty every time I turned." Reeves took a slow breath and stepped deeper into the central passage. The corridor was long, quiet, lined with portraits, including one of the late Queen, her painted eyes watching the hallway with a calm severity that felt almost alive. Diana moved to check the side doors. All were locked, nothing disturbed, nothing touched, nothing out of place, which only heightened the unease threading through Rowan's nerves. A faint rustling sound echoed above them, so soft it could have been the old roof adjusting under the weight of the rain. Reeves instinctively looked up. "Attic vents?" Diana whispered. "No," Rowan answered. "Wrong direction." The voice wasn't coming from above. It moved horizontally, almost as though the speaker was walking but invisible. Reeves shot him a look. "Invisible?" Rowan exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Not literally, just undetectable." Diana approached Rowan, voice low. "You're sure of what you heard?" Rowan's answer came without hesitation. "Absolutely. Someone said, it has to be tonight, and she won't see it coming." And then they said her name. Diana's face tightened in a mixture of concern and disbelief. Reeves paced slowly, eyes scanning corners as if expecting the whisper to materialize again. "Someone knows this wing too well," he muttered. "Anyone else and we'd hear running, footsteps, breathing something. Whoever it was moved like they belonged here." Before Rowan could respond, his radio crackled. "Sergeant Hale, control here. Surveillance review is underway. You're advised to remain in the immediate area. Additional personnel dispatched." Rowan lifted the radio closer. "Confirm any audio anomalies detected on corridor mics?" "Negative," Control said. "No voices detected on sensors between 23:57 and 0:11. Rowan's pulse quickened. The whisper occurred at 07. "Check again for low-frequency capture." A pause. Then, low-frequency capture returns clean. There is no recorded voice. Reeves and Diana exchanged glances. The castle had microphones placed strategically to detect irregular noise. For them to register, nothing meant the whisper existed outside the usual parameters. "You're telling me," Reeves said slowly, "that a voice close enough for Rowan to hear didn't hit a single microphone?" Rowan clenched his jaw. "Someone knows exactly where the dead zones are." Diana leaned against the wall, thinking hard. Dead zones are tiny pockets of space where the castle's acoustics interfere with equipment. No outsider would know where they are. Rowan felt a chill slide down his spine. Exactly. Reeves stepped toward the intersection where 3 corridors met, testing the air by speaking softly. His voice echoed normally. No distortion. No unusual reverberation. "So whoever whispered near you," Reeves said, "knew where to stand to avoid detection." Diana folded her arms. "Which means it wasn't just intent, it was planning." A sound drifted through the hallway, a soft, hurried set of footsteps coming from the direction of the staff stairwell. Rowan motioned sharply for silence. Reeves and Diana moved into positions flanking the corridor. The footsteps slowed, then stopped entirely. Rowan approached the corner cautiously, heart pounding. A figure emerged a moment later, not shadowed or stealthy, but breathless and startled. Lady Henrietta Baker, the night governess for the royal children, appeared holding a stack of folded linens.
Oh,
She gasped when she saw them. "You frightened me." Diana lowered her posture, but kept her gaze sharp. "My lady, what are you doing on this floor at this hour?" Henrietta blinked rapidly. I came to replace the linens in the prince's rooms. It's routine. I do rounds at—" She paused, glancing at Rowan. "Has something happened?" Rowan studied her closely. The governesses were screened thoroughly, trusted deeply, and known personally by the guards. Henrietta was gentle, meticulous, with a reputation for attentiveness, but she looked different tonight, paler, more anxious, her hands trembling slightly. "My lady," Rowan said quietly, "did you hear anything unusual in the last hour? Any voices, footsteps, whispering?" Her eyes darted nervously. "Whispering?" she echoed. "No, nothing like that." Rowan took a step closer. "Are you certain?" Henrietta hesitated, swallowing hard. I heard something earlier, but I thought it was just the vent, or maybe a radio." "What did you hear?" Diana pressed. "Henrietta rung her fingers." "Only a word. A name." Her voice dropped. "Charlotte." Reeves let out a slow breath. Rowan felt a jolt of vindication mixed with dread. "Where were you when you heard it?" he asked. "Near the corner of the library corridor," she whispered. "I thought perhaps one of you were testing equipment." Reeves shook his head. No one was testing anything. Henrietta clutched the linens closer. "Then someone was here. Someone who wasn't supposed to be." Before Rowan could ask more, another voice echoed distantly down the hall. A deep, authoritative tone, unmistakable even through the muffled acoustics of the castle. "Prince William!" Rowan turned sharply. His footsteps were still distant, but growing closer with every second. "He's awake already?" Diana murmured. Reeves checked his watch. "It's barely past midnight." Rowan felt a surge of tension. William walking the corridor at such an hour meant only one thing. Control had contacted him, and if William was coming this way, he knew something significant had happened. Henrietta straightened her posture immediately, fear flickering across her face. Rowan looked toward the far archway where William was approaching with measured urgency. The prince's expression was stern, eyes sharp, jaw set with the kind of determination that sent unease through even the most seasoned guard. And Rowan knew, without a doubt, that this night was about to escalate beyond whispered threats and empty hallways. Because the moment William reached them, the quiet tension of the night would break, and an emergency assembly would soon follow one that could expose far more than the whisper they had heard. Prince William reached the group with a force that carried more intensity than raised voices ever could. His stride was firm, his gaze unblinking, his presence commanding the corridor into silence. Rowan stood straighter instantly. Reeves and Diana followed suit. Henrietta bowed her head, clutching the linens as though they were a lifeline. William stopped in front of Rowan, eyes sharp. "Control informed me you heard something concerning. You said it involved my daughter." Rowan met his gaze without wavering. Yes, Your Royal Highness. I heard a whisper, first indistinct, then intentional. The speaker mentioned Princess Charlotte and implied intention for tonight. It was not an echo, not a dream. Someone was in this corridor. William's jaw tightened. And you saw no one? No, sir. Whoever it was moved with precision and knowledge of the palace acoustics. William turned slightly toward Henrietta. You? He asked. Control mentioned your presence on this wing. Henrietta's breath trembled. I heard the same name, sir. Only once. I didn't know if it was real. William studied her a long moment, as though weighing every detail of her demeanor. Then he looked back at Rowan. This is not coincidence. Something is happening, and it involves my daughter. He motioned for them all to follow. They moved down the corridor, the tension clinging to the walls like a shadow. Rowan felt his instincts sharpening. When William entered the small meeting alcove adjoining the children's wing, he closed the door behind them and remained standing. Sergeant Hale, he said, tell me everything you heard. Every word, every tone. Rowan inhaled slowly. I was finishing my rotation when I heard a faint whisper too soft to identify the speaker. They said, it has to be tonight. Then a pause. Then, she won't see it coming. And then the princess's name. The words were urgent, not hesitant. William absorbed each sentence with a growing storm behind his eyes. No audio on any microphones? Rowan shook his head. Control confirmed nothing. William muttered a low curse under his breath. Reeves added, whoever did this understands the palace structurally. They knew where to stand. Diana nodded. And they moved without lighting any sensor. William turned toward her. So, a staff member? She hesitated. Possibly. But it would have to be someone with extremely precise knowledge. William looked back at Rowan. Do you have any suspects? Rowan considered the question. No direct suspects, sir. But the only people who move this quietly and know these layouts are senior staff, advisors, or, he hesitated, or royal family members. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. William's face hardened. Say it plainly. Rowan forced the words out carefully. Someone with status. Someone who wouldn't attract suspicion walking these halls. Henrietta stiffened, eyes wide. Surely no one in the family would... William cut her off, voice sharp but controlled. Right now, I'm not ruling out anyone. He stepped toward Rowan again. Did the whisper sound male or female? Rowan searched his memory. Male. Low. Controlled. Almost rehearsed. William exhaled slowly, a contemplative anger simmering beneath the surface. There are only 4 male relatives currently residing on or near the estate. My father, my brother, my uncle, and Lord Hensley. Diana spoke cautiously. Your Royal Highness, Prince Harry isn't present, correct? Correct, William answered. So this leaves 3. Rowan felt unease at the implication. King Charles III, Prince Andrew, or Lord Hensley, one of the king's senior advisors. Reeves shifted uncomfortably. Sir, with respect, why would any of them whisper threats about Princess Charlotte? William's voice lowered. Not everything inside this family is what the public sees. Before anyone could question further, a sudden chime echoed through the alcove William's personal phone. He checked the screen, expression sharpening instantly. It's from my father. He stepped aside, answering quietly. Yes? When? Who authorized that? No. I wasn't told. His shoulders tensed. I'll come immediately. He hung up and turned back to the group, eyes blazing with urgency. Someone accessed the private archives room without clearance tonight. My father was alerted when the internal log flagged unauthorized activity. The keycard used belonged to Princess Anne. Rowan's heart jolted. Diana gasped. Reeves looked stunned. Princess Anne, he whispered. She never misplaces her credentials. William nodded grimly, which means one of 2 things. Either she accessed the archives herself tonight, or someone stole her clearance. Rowan stepped forward. Sir, what was touched in the archives? William hesitated. My father didn't say, which means it was significant. A louder tension filled the air, almost vibrating through the room. Henrietta's voice broke the silence as she whispered, Could the whisper and the archive breach be related? Rowan didn't doubt it. It's too much happening at once. William straightened, the decision forming instantly. I'm calling an emergency assembly. This cannot wait. Not until morning. Not with a threat spoken against my daughter. His expression darkened, and not with someone breaking into a protected archive. Before they could move, the door behind them rattled just once. Everyone froze. A soft clicking sound followed, like someone trying to manipulate the latch without fully opening it. Reeves moved first, stepping silently toward the door. Rowan followed, muscles coiled. Diana kept Henrietta behind her. William stood firm, ready. The latch stilled. Then another gentle click. Rowan positioned himself at the handle and pulled it open in one swift motion. The corridor beyond was empty, deserted, unbroken silence. But something cold lingered in the air, as though someone had just been standing there. Rowan stepped into the hallway, scanning sharply. No footsteps, no turned corners, no movement. But on the floor near the door lay something small and metallic, reflecting faint light. Rowan crouched. A keycard, not Princess Anne's, a different one. One that belonged to someone else entirely, someone who should not have been anywhere near this wing. He lifted it slowly as the others gathered behind him. William stared at the card, eyes narrowing in disbelief. That, he said in a low voice, belongs to Lord Hensley. Rowan felt a cold realization slide through him. He was here. William turned toward the corridor, where the shadows stretched like silent conspirators. And he's watching us! He straightened. Assembly! Now! And as they moved, Rowan knew the night had only begun to unravel. The grand hall of Windsor Castle was uncharacteristically silent when Rowan, Reeves, Diana, Henrietta, and Prince William entered. Servants and guards had been summoned quietly, the early morning hours lending an eerie solemnity to the emergency assembly. Golden chandeliers hung overhead, their light bouncing off the polished floor and casting elongated shadows across the room. Rowan noticed how even the portraits seemed to lean closer, their painted eyes attentive as if aware that tonight the palace's secrets had begun surfacing. William stood at the center, tall and commanding, his presence alone sufficient to silence murmurs that rippled through the gathered staff. The emergency assembly was not just a precaution, it was a summons to accountability, a declaration that a breach of trust had taken place and the responsible party must be identified. Rowan stepped forward, holding the keycard he had recovered near Princess Charlotte's wing. This morning, we discovered unauthorized access to the children's corridor, he began, voice steady and clear, carrying across the vast hall. At approximately 07, a whispered threat was reported against Princess Charlotte. No one has yet been apprehended, but evidence suggests the individual had prior knowledge of our security layout and access to restricted areas. William's eyes scanned the room, sharp and unyielding. The individual, he continued, was associated with the archives room, and, by extension, the advisory office. We believe this person attempted to manipulate events from within, using proximity to the princess to send a warning, intimidate, or control outcomes in ways that are wholly unacceptable. The staff exchanged uneasy glances. Even the most composed felt the weight of the accusation pressing down on them like the ancient stones of the castle walls themselves. A low murmur stirred at the back of the hall. William raised a hand. Silence returned immediately. We will investigate this methodically, he said, voice firm but calm. Every keycard swipe, every patrol record, every security log from the past 24 hours will be reviewed. No corner of this palace will be ignored. And no one is above scrutiny, not staff, not advisors, not even members of the royal family if circumstances require. Henrietta's hands were clasped tightly together, and Rowan could see the flicker of anxiety in Diana's eyes. Reeves, usually stoic, shifted his weight from one foot to the other. The atmosphere was tense, every person aware that an unseen threat had moved among them. The whispered words still echoed in Rowan's mind, cold and deliberate. It has to be tonight. She won't see it coming, Charlotte. William moved to the side of the hall, his gaze falling on the collection of senior staff and advisors. Lord Hensley, he said, voice sharp, each syllable deliberate. Your keycard was used to access areas you should not have entered. Explain. A stiff hush fell over the assembly. Lord Hensley's expression remained unreadable, but his hands tightened over the edge of the podium before him. Your Royal Highness, he said carefully, there has been a misunderstanding. I was in the archives to retrieve documents authorized by the king. I did not enter any unauthorized areas. William's eyes narrowed. The logs indicate your card swiped in proximity to Princess Charlotte's corridor at 06, prior to the whispered threat. How do you explain that? Lord Hensley's voice faltered slightly. I was alone for a moment in the hallway. Perhaps I swiped the card to pass through, but it did not coincide with any intentional activity toward the children. Rowan felt the air grow heavier. The timeline matched the whispered threat almost perfectly. Someone had used Hensley's clearance, whether by coercion, theft, or deception. William's jaw tightened, his patience thinning. This is no trivial matter, he said. The security of my daughter and the integrity of this household is not negotiable. Rowan stepped forward, holding the recovered keycard at eye level. Sir, he said, this card was found near Princess Charlotte's wing this morning. Whoever used it had to have detailed knowledge of patrol rotations and sensor dead zones. This was deliberate, and it was dangerous. William took the card from him, examining it with meticulous attention. So deliberate, he muttered, that the person responsible almost went unnoticed entirely. They counted on our routines to protect themselves. Henrietta swallowed hard. Sir, she said softly, is it possible the threat came from someone with inside knowledge? Someone trusted? William's eyes swept the room slowly, landing on advisors, senior staff, and finally on the guards themselves. It is possible, he replied, which is why no assumptions can be made until the investigation is complete. Trust is earned, not assumed. This castle is no place for negligence or ambition disguised as loyalty. He turned to Rowan. Sergeant Hale, you and your team will trace every movement from 23:30 until 1. Reconstruct the events with precision. Interview anyone who had access, including those who were ostensibly on duty elsewhere. Rowan nodded sharply. Yes, sir. We'll begin immediately. William's voice softened slightly but retained its commanding weight. And Rowan, he said, report to me directly. Do not allow any leaks or premature conclusions. This is not merely a matter of procedure. It is a matter of safety for Charlotte and for this household. Rowan felt a shiver run through him. Every guard knew that when William spoke this way, the situation was critical. Nothing less than absolute vigilance would suffice. The assembly began to disperse, staff returning to their posts or assigned tasks. Henrietta lingered near Rowan and the other guards, wringing her hands. Do you think she's safe? She asked quietly. Rowan looked toward Charlotte's wing, the heavy oak doors glowing faintly in the early dawn light. She is asleep, he said, for now, and we will ensure she stays that way, Reeves added, voice low. But whoever did this is clever and patient. They will try again if we falter. Diana exhaled slowly, which means we can't falter. William remained in the hall, alone for a moment, eyes scanning the shadows. He spoke to no one, though his words were carried in the tense air. We know the method, we know the window, and we know the intention. The next step is to find the person who thinks they can challenge the safety of my daughter. He straightened, drawing in a slow, deliberate breath. And when we do, his voice dropped lower, heavy with restrained fury. They will regret every second. Outside the hall, the castle seemed to settle into uneasy quiet again. The rain had lessened, leaving the courtyard slick and reflective. Rowan, Reeves, and Diana moved toward the children's wing, keycard and patrol logs in hand. Henrietta followed, each step careful and measured. Rowan's instinct screamed that tonight was far from over. The whisper had been only the beginning, a chilling hint that someone within the palace walls harbored intentions darker than simple ambition. Every corridor could conceal secrets, and every shadow could conceal intent. The investigation had only just begun, and Rowan knew that the closer they came to the truth, the more dangerous the path would be. As they approached the entrance to Princess Charlotte's suite, Rowan paused. A faint sound drifted from the corner of the hall, a soft click, deliberate and familiar. He froze, heart hammering. Diana and Reeves stopped as well. Henrietta gasped quietly. The sound repeated. A single metallic click, like a lock being tested. Rowan motioned for silence. The whisper had returned, though no one spoke, and in that moment, he realized someone was still inside the palace, watching, waiting, and prepared to strike again. He tightened his grip on the keycard, eyes scanning every shadow, knowing the next move could decide the safety of Princess Charlotte and the entire household.